Have you ever made a decision in the heat of the moment, only to regret it later? Maybe you sent a text you wish you could take back, made a purchase you didn't need, or reacted emotionally in a situation that required patience. The truth is, impulse often leads to regret, but reason leads to clarity, control, and better choices. So, how do you train yourself to think before you act? How do you make choices that align with your long-term goals, not just your temporary emotions? Today, we'll break down 12 habits that will help you master your mind and make decisions with wisdom, not impulse. Stay till the end as we uncover the mindset shift that can change the way you approach every decision. And if you find this video valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. Habit 1. Pause before you react. Imagine you're in a heated argument. Your pulse quickens, words rush to your tongue, and in the heat of the moment, you lash out. A few minutes later, regret sinks in. This is what happens when impulse takes control. But what if you paused? Just for a second. Seneca once said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." The moment between stimulus and response is where your power lies. Instead of reacting instantly, take a deep breath. Count to 3. Observe the feeling without letting it dictate your actions. A pause doesn't mean weakness. It means control. That single moment can be the difference between peace and unnecessary conflict. Before making a decision, give yourself space to think. Because decisions made in anger, fear, or excitement rarely lead to outcomes we're proud of. Habit 2. Think long-term, not just short-term. Most regrets come from choices made for instant gratification. We crave the temporary high, the immediate comfort, the easy way out. But wise people, the ones who shape their lives with intention, always ask, will this matter in a week? A year? A decade? Epictetus advised, no man is free who is not master of himself. Mastery begins when we choose what benefits our future, not just our fleeting emotions. Before making a decision, visualize the long-term consequences. Will skipping that workout today make you healthier next year? Will responding in anger strengthen your relationships? Every action either builds or destroys something in your future. Consider how the Stoics lived. They trained their minds to see beyond the present moment. When Marcus Aurelius was pressured by advisors to act impulsively in war, he restrained himself. He knew that short-term victories meant nothing if they led to long-term destruction. He always played the long game. So should you? Habit 3. Challenge your first instinct. Your gut reaction isn't always your best one. The first thought that pops into your mind is often shaped by emotions, biases, or old habits, not wisdom. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed in questioning their own impulses, refining their thoughts before acting. How often do we assume the worst, overreact, or act without full understanding? Before making a decision, step back and challenge your initial response. Ask, is this truly the best course of action or just the easiest one? Marcus Aurelius practiced this every day. Before reacting, he would write down his thoughts, examining whether they were driven by reason or impulse. This small habit kept him from making rash decisions as an emperor. You can do the same. Instead of assuming your first instinct is correct, question it, reframe it. Let reason have the final say. Habit 4. Identify your emotional triggers. Every impulsive decision has a root cause, an emotional trigger. Maybe it's frustration, insecurity, or the fear of missing out. Whatever it is, if you don't recognize it, it will control you. The Stoics believed that true freedom comes from self-awareness. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." To master yourself, you must first understand what sets you off. Take a moment to reflect. What situations make you react impulsively? Is it criticism? Feeling ignored? The need for instant approval? The next time you feel that familiar rush of emotion, don't act on it. Analyze it. Marcus Aurelius advised, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it, and you have the power to revoke this at any moment. Your triggers only have power over you if you let them. Observe them, detach from them, and regain control. Habit 5. Seek logic, not just emotion. Emotions are part of being human. They make life rich, but they can also cloud our judgment. When faced with a decision, do you let emotions lead, or do you pause and apply logic? The Stoics believed in tempering emotion with reason. They didn't reject feelings. They just didn't let them dictate their actions. Seneca wrote, "A wise man is not moved by the storms of emotion. He uses them, but he is not used by them." Before making a decision, step outside yourself. Imagine you're giving advice to a friend. What would you say? Would you tell them to lash out, overspend, or quit in frustration? Probably not. This practice of viewing problems from an external perspective helps detach from fleeting emotions and make choices grounded in logic. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to rise above his emotions. He faced betrayals, political pressure, and personal losses, yet he remained steady. His secret? He never made decisions purely on feelings. Instead, he assessed the facts, weighed the consequences, and acted accordingly. This is how you make choices that serve your best interest, not just your present mood. Habit 6. Don't let pressure rush you. How many bad decisions have been made under pressure? When you're rushed, your brain defaults to survival mode, fight, flight, or freeze. It's why people say things they don't mean, accept deals they shouldn't, or make reckless choices. But the truth is, very few decisions require immediate action. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same reason which you apply now. If someone pressures you to decide now, pause. Ask yourself, do I really need to act immediately? Or am I just being pushed by external forces? In most cases, you have more time than you think. Think about the times you felt pressured, whether by people, deadlines, or expectations. Now think about how different things could have been if you had given yourself space to breathe. Next time, don't let urgency dictate your actions. Slow down. A well-thought-out decision is always better than a fast one. Habit 7. Use a simple decision-making process. Making decisions doesn't have to be complicated. The more you simplify the process, the easier it becomes to choose wisely. One method the Stoics used was writing things down. When Seneca faced difficult choices, he would reflect in writing, breaking down the situation logically. A simple framework you can use is this. Pause, step back, and clear your mind. Ask, what are the long-term effects of this choice? Compare, what would a wise person do in my situation? Decide, make the choice with clarity, not confusion. By applying this structure, you remove the chaos from decision-making. Instead of letting emotions take the wheel, you guide yourself with logic. Marcus Aurelius did this daily, reminding himself that very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. When you have a system in place, making rational decisions becomes second nature. Habit 8. Focus on what you can control. Life is full of uncertainties. People will disappoint you. Plans will change, and circumstances will shift beyond your control. But what you can control is how you respond. The Stoics lived by this principle. Epictetus taught, happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. When making decisions, separate what's in your hands from what isn't. Are you stressing over someone else's actions? Are you trying to change the past? Redirect your energy toward what you can influence. Your attitude, your actions, your mindset. Instead of worrying about external forces, ask, what's the best thing I can do right now? When you focus on what you control, you remove unnecessary stress and make decisions with clarity, not frustration. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this. He ruled during war, plagues, and political betrayals. Yet he stayed composed because he knew that external events didn't define him. His response did. Apply this mindset, and you'll always act from a place of strength, not fear. Habit 9. Stop overthinking, but don't rush. There's a fine line between thinking through a decision and being stuck in analysis paralysis. Overthinking is often just fear disguised as logic. You weigh every possibility, anticipate every outcome, and end up doing nothing at all. Seneca warned against this when he said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." But rushing into decisions is just as dangerous. Acting too quickly leads to regret, while overanalyzing leads to inaction. The key is balance. Give yourself enough time to consider your options, but set a deadline to act. If you find yourself spiraling in endless what-ifs, step back and ask, what's the worst that can happen? More often than not, the fear is exaggerated. Marcus Aurelius had to make decisions that affected entire nations. He couldn't afford to be reckless, but he also couldn't afford hesitation. His approach? Think before you act, but when the time comes, do not hesitate. Adopt this mindset, and you'll free yourself from the trap of indecision while avoiding reckless choices. Habit 10. Learn from past mistakes. Everyone has made bad decisions. The difference between the wise and the reckless is that the wise learn from them. Instead of dwelling on mistakes, the Stoics viewed them as lessons. Seneca advised, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Mistakes are part of growth, but only if you take the time to reflect. When you make a poor decision, don't bury it, analyze it. Ask yourself, what led me to this choice? What emotions were involved? How can I prevent this in the future? The past is a classroom, not a prison. Use it to refine your judgment instead of letting it haunt you. Marcus Aurelius would write in his journal every night, reviewing his thoughts and actions. He didn't see failure as defeat. He saw it as feedback. If you adopt this habit, every wrong turn becomes a stepping stone toward wisdom. Habit 11. Strengthen your willpower with small wins. Making rational decisions isn't just about mindset. It's about training your self-discipline. Every time you resist an impulse, you strengthen your willpower. Just like a muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it gets. The Stoics believed in voluntary hardship, intentionally practicing discomfort to build resilience. Seneca would go days eating the simplest foods and wearing rough clothing to prove to himself that luxury wasn't a necessity. Why? Because when you practice restraint in small things, you gain control over bigger decisions. Start small. Pause before making an unnecessary purchase. Take a moment before reacting to a rude comment. Commit to one healthy habit and stick to it. These little wins accumulate, making it easier to stay disciplined when bigger choices arise. If you build discipline in everyday moments, Making rational decisions when it truly matters becomes second nature. Habit 12. Trust the process, not just the outcome. One of the biggest reasons people make impulsive decisions is because they chase quick results. But the Stoics understood that while we can control our actions, we can't always control the outcome. That's why they focus on the process, not just the end result. Epictetus said, "Do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead want them to happen as they do, and your life will go well." What does this mean in practice? Instead of obsessing over whether a decision will give you the perfect result, focus on making the best choice based on logic and principles. Some things won't go your way, but that doesn't mean the decision was wrong. If you act with wisdom, patience, and reason, the outcome, good or bad, becomes secondary. Marcus Aurelius applied this during battles and political struggles. He couldn't predict the future, but he knew if he acted with virtue, he could live without regret. Next time you're faced with a tough choice, ask yourself, am I making this decision because it's right or because I just want immediate results? If you trust the process and stay committed to reason, you'll always find your way forward. Every choice you make shapes your future. Reacting impulsively might feel satisfying in the moment, but wisdom is built on restraint, logic, and patience. The Stoics mastered this because they understood a simple truth. Your emotions may be loud, but your reason should always have the final say. Seneca once said, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." The same applies to your mind. If you're constantly being pulled by emotions, external pressures, and impulses, you'll always feel lost. But if you cultivate these habits, pausing before reacting, thinking long-term, challenging your instincts, and strengthening your willpower, you'll make decisions with confidence, clarity, and control. The question now is, will you let your impulses run your life, or will you train yourself to act with reason? The choice is yours. Which habit will you start using today? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights on self-mastery and Stoic wisdom.